can see him and hear him in this world every day. Satan is real, working with power. He can tempt you and lead you astray. I attended service at a little church in the country not long ago. A prayer was led by an old country preacher who then raised his hands as everyone stood and sang, "My God is real." And then a little old man stood up, bent with age, his hair thin and white, and said, "Preacher, tell them that Satan is real too. You can hear him in songs that give praise to idols and sinful things of this world. You can see him in the destruction of homes torn apart. I know that Satan is real, for once I had a happy home, and then Satan came into my life. I grew selfish and unneighborly. My friends turned against me, and finally my home was broken apart. Yes, preacher, it's sweet to know that God is real, and to know that in him all things are possible. And we know that heaven is a real place where joys shall never end. But sinner friend, if you're here today, Satan is real too, and hell is a real place, a place of everlasting punishment. Satan is real, working in spirit. You can see him and hear him in this world every day. Satan is real, working with power.
You asking me if Satan is real? Last time I looked at the news in the newspaper, he's alive and well, wearing it out through the world. He is everywhere.
Alabama, your beautiful sunlight, your fields of cereus, potatoes and corn. Alabama, your crimson red.
My brother and I started in the business. Our first show date was July the 4th, 1941. I was 14 and he was 3 years older than I. We worked at a little old place called Flat Rock, Alabama, about 10 miles from where we were raised. And they paid us $3 a piece. Now, at that time, my daddy was making little rocks out of big rocks, working for the WPA. But we made more money in one day than our father could make in a week, just working like a dog, you know, from daylight till dark. So we just knew then that we had the world by the tail. Now, later on, it got us by the tail, but we promised ourselves we would stick through thick and thin, and it did get thin at times. I volunteered in 1945 when I was 18. I volunteered for the Army Air Force. It was all together then. And the government quit putting money with a little of your money and then sending it to your parents. And if I didn't like that, well, I could go and ask for a discharge and get it. So I had about all I needed. So I went and got a discharge and came home. And then my brother and I got to doing pretty darn good in the music business in Memphis, Tennessee.
In that land across the sea, there's a job for you and me. Though our presence there may not be found, we must stay night and day on the battle line and pray.
I got a letter from the draft board, greetings, you call that. So they drafted me again. When they got ready to send me to Korea, the Louvin brothers had a release that had just been released days before that from mother's arms to Korea. The wife was pregnant. I had everything that should have got you out, but nothing did. I never enjoyed a minute of my service in Korea. I liked the fact that I got home with no holes punched in me.
You know, singing groups come and singing groups go, but there's a duo that shows signs of going on forever. Ladies and gentlemen, Ira and Charlie, the Louvin brothers.
Thank you, T. Thompson. Thank you very much.
What do you,
I had just got out of the service, and when I really started paying attention to Charlie, Louvin, and Ira, I was only about 21. And when I heard this song on the radio, when I stopped dreaming, I like to wreck my car. I pulled it over the side as quick as I could, and I finished hearing the entire song. And I was a Ira and Charlie Louvin fan ever since.
True stories always intrigues a reader more than something that somebody just makes up. So we do real life songs.
I got to hear about his mom and his father and Ira and their life on the tobacco farm and what that was like. I remember he was explaining what his mother was like, and that she was just the kindest, sweetest woman, and he referred to her as a praying woman. And he would hear her pray for him while he was going to bed in the other room. She would be praying for the family in either, a sitting room or a living room, and he would overhear her, lifting his name up. And that was really beautiful when he talked about that. And I remember he said his father was rougher than a cop. And it wasn't said to be funny. His father must have been really intense. There's a song that Charlie wrote called Mama's Angels that is stunning. And it's the story of his mom. And he had dreamt that he saw the angels come and take his mother to heaven. And that she walked through heaven's open door. Really beautiful.
A small band of angels came to visit Mama, and while they talked, my mama walked through heaven's open door.
I don't think that anybody in country music, acoustic music, since the Louvins first sang, I don't think anything has been escaped their touch or their influence. Thank God for it.
The name Louvin is synonymous with country music. It's country music royalty. That sound that they had, nobody else has ever duplicated. It's been often tried, but it's never been duplicated.
I like the Christian life.
My buddies tell me that I should have waited. They say I'm missing a whole world of fun. But I am happy and I sing with pride.
My brother could have been. A lot of people said he was called that way, but he could have been a whale of a preacher. You listen to the song, you know he knew the book.
To the river of Jordan, our Savior went one day, and we read that John the Baptist met him there. And when John
their gospel music and their spiritual music and their music about the dark side of life and spirituality. I mean, it's just so powerful. I sort of had this almost religious conversion to country music in my mid-20s because of working with Graham Parsons and discovering the Louvin brothers and George Jones and all the wonderful, really true, washed in the blood country music. And I think there is something universal in the values or the heart and the soul that is coming out of their music.
Satan's jewel crown, I've worn it so long, but God for my soul.
That was a different LP.
It's the fear of Satan. That's another thing that I think made that one so popular. The fear that's been instilled in everyone throughout time.
We did the album cover in a rock quarry that was closed, and we wanted to do the cover. So we cut up some plywood and made what we thought the devil looked like. There's always preached to that what the devil would look like.
Who would have thought when they were carving up that piece of plywood that my train set belonged on, while I was at school, that 50 years later, that it's not too many songs that stood around that long.
Ira and Charlie in their white suits, singing, and that fire and brimstone kind of folk art painted devil, back there. It's just one of those images that was folksy, but at the same time it was poignant, and it was truly art. It was culture and it was art, and it was a loud and broad statement. And guess what? Satan is real. He truly is real. They were right.
Lord, have mercy on me, was a kneeling drunkard's plea, and as he knelt there on the ground, I know that God from heaven looked down.
We were in the studio to record, and Ken Nelson was our what they call an A&R man. And so he came to Ira and said, Ira, I believe that the mandolin is hurting the sales of the Louvin brother music. We was fighting the Elvis Presleys and was hanging in there pretty good. And then the Beatles came along and we withered that. But my brother never used a mandolin on another record. I'd get the steel guitar to do it or the piano to do it, but he wouldn't do another one. He always threw that back at Ken. I don't want to hurt the sales of the Louvin brother music anymore. It was just a trying time that nobody's ever been as hot as Elvis Presley. And Elvis actually opened for Ira and I. But that didn't last long. A couple weeks later, he was hotter than a homemade skillet, and nobody could follow him.
Oh, sinner, you better get ready. Oh, you better get ready, hallelujah. Sinner, you better get ready. The time's a-coming when the sinner must die.
Ira was an unpredictable cuss, and you never knew what he was going to like. In fact, you didn't know which Ira you was going to talk to today. If he showed up, was he going to be the boogeyman that day, or was he going to act right?
The first I got to get acquainted at all with Charlie and Ira. Ira, he seemed to be all the time kind of mad, like, or a loner, didn't talk a lot.
he kept saying to me for more than another year, every time we'd go out, he'd say, when we get back to Nashville, I'm quitting this writing business. This is it. Don't book no more dates. I'm out of it. So then when we get back, 2 or 3 days, he'd call me, time to sober up. So what time are we on the Alpha this week? And I'd tell him. Say, well, you know that was that old whiskey talking. I said, Iris, get to where that's all I hear.
He said, my sister wants to marry, then my heart was filled with thee. I knew that you would marry me.
The last show that they played before they parted ways, I think the figure he said was maybe $250 is what they made. And then they had to pay musicians and expenses and travel expenses and commissions out of that. And the great angelic Louvin brothers sound that we know, the reality of it was that it had kind of run its course at the moment.
Any regrets? Well, I suppose that I could say I have one master regret. I never was able to handle a drinker. As much as I tried or went at it this way and went at it that way, I never was able to handle a drinker. My brother was a drinker, and when he drank, he hated the world. There ain't nothing you could do to please him when he was drinking. And everybody said, you got to do this, you got to do that. But anything that I ever tried didn't work. I've got lots more patience than I ever had. And it didn't take much to trigger him and get him in your face right quick. He was a very unpredictable, actually unsocial being, but he was a great songwriter, as good as ever lived.
It must have been an awful hurt that someone did to you, that built a wall around your heart that I can't break through.
Well, I was 11. It was 1965. And I know we had to stay with the pastor at Forest Hills Baptist Church when he found out.
I wish I could change this sad story that I am now telling you. But there is no way I could change it, 'cause somebody's life is bound to be. No, I didn't hear nobody pray, dear brother. I didn't hear nobody pray. I heard the crash on the highway, but I didn't hear nobody pray. Oh, when I heard that crash on the highway, I knew what it was from the start. And I went to the scene of destruction, and a picture was stamped on my heart. There was whiskey and blood all together, mixed with the glass where they lay. Dead later hand in destruction, but I didn't hear nobody pray. No, I didn't hear nobody.
It was the music that has echoed through all the ages. Charlie proved from the minute there was no more Louvin Brothers and he lost his brother that the hits kept coming. He honored the Louvin Brothers sound instead of ran from it or belittled it.
You would think that that would be a little problem after singing with your partner, you know, and your brother. You say, well, what am I going to do now? And I'm sure that struck Charlie's mind.
Will you visit me on Sundays? Will you bring me pretty flowers? Will your big blue eyes be misty? Will you brush away a tear?
I think it must have taken him a long time to sort of redefine his life after his passing. I think, you know, they were a unit. They were like one thing. And I just think that it must have been really, really hard to just sort of forge ahead.
You were the king of Sand Mountain, at least I thought so. You had a knack for high tenor, and I sang the low Alabama to the Opry was the second hardest road. The worst was me losing you and singing all alone. Ira, I still hear you. The public is not interested in who died yesterday and who you got to bury tomorrow. I paid my money to come in, and I expect you to knock off all the talk about the sadness and show us a program that we like. And sometimes that's really hard to do when you've got pressures around your neck. But I've strived to always remember where I was at, what I was supposed to be doing.
But you know, when they start bringing in these money people from all over the world, when they found out that money could be made, pretty good money could be made in country music. But that wasn't enough for them. They wanted to change it and in all kind of directions, you know, which hurt people like, well, a whole bunch of us, you know, like Charlie. And
the longest train I ever saw was 19 coaches long. I told you the only girl I ever loved, she jumped on that train, she's gone. In the pines where the sun never shines, and you shiver when the cold winds blow. Little girl, what have I done that's made you treat me so?
You run into people on the road constantly that say, you know, why don't you record some more? We ain't seen a record of yours in such and such a time. And I just tell them it's almost impossible to get a indie record played. And so I would really believe these people on the road, and I'd go wipe out my savings account and cut a good album and put it out, and a year later you're back doing a show in that area and they hit you with the same thing, you know, when are you going to record? And I said, I did record about a year ago. Well, we didn't hear it. We didn't even know it was out.
way back then. It wasn't that easy to find the old recordings, but I did seek them out, and then when I finally made my first record for Warner Brothers that came out in 1975, another friend had turned me on to If I Could Only Win Your Love, which we recorded and did very well for us. And they wanted me to be on the CMA Awards show, and it seemed perfectly natural to me that I would ask for Charlie to do the duet with me. It was a real trip getting to sing with him. Because, I mean, he hit those notes. He aced it.
I'd probably wear you away. My heart would never stray one dream away. Feels like you'd only win your love.
It seems like it's taken more of like the independent young artists who are coming kind of from left field, but really it's a field where they listen to all different kinds of music and they can appreciate the honesty and the trueness of Charlie's music and what the Louvin brothers did. And coming from, you know, a culture and a place that really doesn't exist anymore. You know, we're all blending together, but as long as we have the music of those artists like Charlie, we can always listen to it and we can learn from it.
When burdens seem to overcome that higher power who's faithful and refuses none, that higher power, then why ask men to help you through that higher power? They're helpless pilgrims just like you, that higher power.
He's as adamant about it today as he was 40 years ago when I first met him. But it's beyond just traditional country music. It's the roots element of American music. It is the altar, the spiritual side, the empowering force of country music. And who better than Charlie Louvin to personify that?
Well, I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down.
I'd seen him at the Opry forever and was aware of, you know, of things, of course, that he'd written and, you know, of who he was. And it was, you know, surreal to think that he was walking around in the same building I was in. He said, you know, what are you doing? Why don't you come have some Chinese food with me? And I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I went and sat with him, and I had the most amazing time. I got to ask him about all the songs that, you know, that kind of developed my mindset of what I've thought is ideal. You know, in my opinion, he didn't have the notoriety that he should have gotten. You know, even though he's stayed relevant all these years.
You know, we went to record stores and ended up going to the Grand Ole Opry and, you know, got a sense for his routine, you know, his home life and, you know, his people, and it was a lot of fun.
I've toured with Cake and Cheap Trick, Lucinda Williams, and the old 97. I toured with some of the better rock and roll groups.
I've got wheels of polished steel. I've got tires that grab the road. I've got...
There's a lot of music that comes out every year. Hundreds and, you know, maybe thousands of songs. And over time, most of that stuff gets forgotten because it probably should be forgotten. But there's some stuff that sticks to the wall. And I think the fact that Charlie sort of had sort of an indie style resurgence makes sense because the music was enduring, the music was useful 30, 40, 50 years later, you know, and I think that's just like, that's the biggest compliment that any musician can have.
We wanted to do you one other song to remind you that there was, once upon a time, a team. Oh, they leave it there.
You'll have to choose the way. You'll have to go astray. Stop running wild.
Well, obviously we performed with him on the Unlimited Sunshine tour. We played a few songs with him. You know, I especially remember singing the song You're Learning with him, which, you know, it's a great song and went over really well with everybody there. And we still play it from time to time.
It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. It takes a worried man to sing. I used to tell myself when they finally booked it, what are you going to do when you get to this gig? And the rock and roll people in the audience is totally surprised. And they say, hey, you know, we came to hear rock and roll, not none of that jazz. And I tried to convince myself, well, what would you do if you run into a situation like that? I never did come up with a decent answer to that problem, but it never happened.
I couldn't believe the crowds we were working to and the music he was doing. It was an excellent tour.
I didn't sense the nervousness on the part of Charlie, but I did notice that as the nights went on, he had the audiences like more figured out, and he had them more in the palm of his hand.
Ready for that great atomic power? Will you rise and meet your Savior in the air? Will you shout or will you cry when the fire rains from on high? Are you ready for that great atomic power?
He was basically in front of a non-country audience. So yeah, that's always, you know, potentially threatening. But you know, we're all like, you know, humans, and so there's certain through lines, there's certain commonalities that exist no matter what. And if you can play on those commonalities, you can communicate to anybody. So he did it. I think of him as someone who's ultimately not that afraid of anything.
Lost all my money but a $2 bill, and I'm on my long journey home.
A friend of mine in New York called me one day and asked me if I would like to record some, because I hadn't recorded in a while. I got real sick of playing the game. And that's all the music business is a game you play. And I said, I don't know. I said, do you have distribution? And he said, yes, I do. So that interested me. So I got back in, and they sell pretty good, and we were nominated for 2 Grammys. We didn't win, but to be nominated is quite an honor.
Train a-comin' and I'll soon be gone. Soon be gone, boys, soon be gone. I hear a train a-comin' and I'll soon be gone.
I flew back on a plane next to him, to Charlie, from the Grammys one year, and he was sitting next to me. And we spent time talking about cornbread and how he would put garlic powder in his cornbread and how good that was. And we talked about green apples versus red apples. And we covered it all. We covered it all.
Back when we were young, everybody came to see us. Everybody wanted to be us. Back when we were young, we loved each other so. All our friends told one another, and we even told each other. Back when we were young. It was laughing, it was dancing, it was cigarettes and bourbon. flavor kisses.
I went down and sang with him at a little club. I was saying, God, Charlie, this is too late. I can't believe you're going on at 10:30 at night. I'm usually in bed by 10. But he was ready to rock. And of course, he was dealing with cancer, and just, you know, he was just a lovely gentleman all around, Charlie was.
Pain should be on the grave, protection on your soul. When this old house you're living in, the hand of death will close. Your policy may
I suppose that the Louvin brothers is as lucky as anybody's ever been. People ask me constantly today, did you and your brother think that this music would be alive 60 years down the road? And I have to tell them the truth. I just say we wasn't thinking about 60 years ahead. We was merely trying to make a living, doing what we knew how to do.
what have you got if you are not insured beyond the grave?
It's something that stays in your craw, and it's hard to let go. You know, you just wanna, you love it so much, and really, it's like a religion to most of us. I eat and breathe it, and I'd fight for it. We'll both do it till the day we die, and I think it's been a great life for Charlie, and especially when they were together, and then Charlie did so good as a solo artist.
Said that'll be cast on about it, son. This old great dog gets paid to run when the engine stops. Lord, the wheels won't roll. Give me cash on the barrelhead. I'll take it down the road.
His staying power, his tenacity, his force of will, his talent, his joy of life, you know, made his life a monumental success.
You know, you don't have an identity like Charlie has, and not, you know, not dig your heels in almost every other area of your life. You know, to write the songs and believe in what he was doing, what Ira was doing, to make such a musical stand like that and not compromise. When I think the most, you know, magical part is the picture he painted of life. You know, the fantasy of that simple life and true love and home and family and commitment to all those things. It was, you know, as magical as melody and lyrics can get. I don't know who else you could even compare to Charlie. I don't know who else to put on the same level.
I don't want to be in the business when I get to the place where I can't sing on key, and that only makes people laugh, never makes them cry. And so I hope that the good Lord will drop the news on me. You know, you've been pretty good at it, but you've lost it. It's time to get out.
The influence he's had on people, no one will ever know the full impact of it, but from country music to bluegrass music to folk music to rock and roll to gospel music, you know, you'll find that their imprint and their presence in all of those genres, and there's no end in sight. Charlie and Ira's sound went around the world several times, and it exists out there. It's just part of the atmosphere.
the valleys of this life I have wandered, and I've worked for Jesus all along the way. But now life's evening sun for me is setting. I have reached the ending of my way. Lord, I've been faithful in the service you have given, and the harvest of the fields, Lord, I have done. But now my steps are growing weary. Lord, I'm waiting, I'm ready to go home. Looking back upon the life I've lived for Jesus, I can see how He has helped me all the way. And the tears I've shed just help to keep me humble. And each burden only taught me how to pray. Lord, I've been faithful in the service you have given, and the harvest of the fields, Lord, I have done. But now my steps are growing weary. Lord, I'm waiting, I'm ready to go home.
Alabama, your beautiful sunlight, your fields of cerisa, potatoes and corn. Alabama, your crimson red clover, all mingled around the old place I was born. Alabama, your hills and your valleys, your creeks sing with laughter as onward they flow. Alabama, so sweet in the springtime, sweet ferns and wildflowers in winter with snow. Alabama, so sweet to my memory, you shine like a light on a beautiful hill. Alabama, in days of my childhood, I labored and toiled at the old sorghum mill. Alabama, when red leaves are falling, I roam through your pastures with fences of rail. Alabama, when possums are crawling and hound dogs are howling and wagging their tails. Alabama, your beautiful highways, all carved through the mountains where loved ones do wait. Alabama, your goldenrod flower and the welcome home sign hanging over the gate.
Well, I'll be nice to everybody that I meet on the road or at home, but I do still enjoy rattling the devil's cage.